G'day guys, my name is Wildkard. So yeah, Scotland versus Wallabies at Murrayfield. Game just ended. This was a pretty poor performance by the Wallabies, to be really fair. And it's okay because nobody watched this anyway, since it's pay-per-view on Stan Sport. And guess what? If you're having a tough time in the pandemic and you can't afford this, too bad. You're not going to be able to watch this for free because, Wallabies only represents the richest of the rich people in Australia. That aside, the Wallabies was absolutely dominating the scrums today. And this was, I don't want 100% blame the fact that Rory Arnold got handed a starting jersey at number 4. But there was a bit of bad luck involved in the Wallabies as well. But also, there's clearly some kind of structure issues in the Wallabies scrums because I've never seen the Wallabies scrums this bad in the game. So, a couple of things. First up, the Wallabies scrum seems to have an issue where James Slipper keeps slipping down. And he got penalised a lot on the loose air side at the beginning of the game for hinging. The referee calls him hinging. So maybe it's the technique issues. Maybe it's an issue with the setup. So yeah, there was a bit of penalty there. And then things got really bad when Alan Alatoa got sent off for a swinging elbow to, I think, Zander Fagerson. Zander Fagerson, you are an absolute piece of turd. You are a big fat piece of turd. And God, you are so awful. You are absolutely awful player. So anyway, this is what happens. Basically, Wallabies were actually scored a try with Michael Hooper here. He busts through the ruck, goes down, gets tackled a bit short, reaches out for a try. Mike Hooper gets up. Zander Fagerson, the big fat piece of turd, grabs Hooper on the face, literally like this, and shooks him and pushes him away. Okay, I thought for sure that's a yellow card, right? He just literally grabbed Mike Hooper in the face, and Mike Hooper just get off me, and they walked away. Didn't do anything. He's too good. Hooper, too experienced to fall for that. So the referee had a TMO check for the try, and then they determined that Alan Alatoa, who was cleaning out the ruck just before Michael Hooper scored a try, had a swinging arm, touched one of the Scottish players in the face. I think it was Zander Fagerson, not too sure. But he was just literally he wanted to clean out, and his arm went, literally was a limped arm, okay? It was like a limp. It wasn't even a hard hit. A limp arm to the face. Okay, fine. I've seen people be penalized for that, but it was super soft. So the referee says, okay, that's a penalty and yellow card. Okay, so it was literally like a limp arm. Okay, fine, yellow card. So that kind of set up the. So that's a yellow card, and Zander Fagerson grabbing Michael Hooper on the face, shooking his head. Right, shaking his head. Shooking was not a word. Shaking his head. That's completely fine according to the TMO. Okay, what a fat piece of turd you are, Fagerson. God, you are such a piece of turd. So anyway, so as a result of that, the Wallabies has to get Tupou on the field, and then a few minutes later, the Irish number 12, what's his name? Sam Johnson ran a ball into Tupou, and literally he was such a huge collision. Tupou and him collided. It was such a huge collision, right? It sounded like imagine a baseball bat, okay? And you swing it and you smack it onto a frozen piece of meat. And then it was literally that, sounded like that around the entire stadium. The sound echoed around the entire stadium, and the whole crowd was like, ooh. And Tupou, sure enough, goes down. Looked like he got really oozy because it was a pretty big hit, and then he kind of got taken off for HRA during the yellow card when Alan Alatoa was off. So the Wallabies has to put Jem Slipper on tight head and Angus Bell back on the field for the loose heads. So 2 loose heads. And sure enough, the scrum went from not very good at the beginning to absolutely horrendous, where Scotland was able to squeeze out penalty after penalties, eventually going in for a try. And yeah, it was pretty horrendous to watch. And then after that, Alan Alatua did come back onto the field. When Alan Alatua came back onto the field, he gets HRA'd right away. So he goes off. Wallabies goes back to 2 loose hair props again, and then gets demolished again. And then, yeah, I think that's when Scotland actually managed to score a try with the penalties, repeated penalties on the scrummaging. But yeah, it was horrendous. And then after Alan Alatua went off for about 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever, he came back on, cleared off the HRA. Still, Wallaby scrums just falling apart. So I have a feeling it's not just the fact that, you know, the props were injured. That is part of it. But I think maybe putting players that hasn't been in the squad for very long, only been in the squad for a week, in the lock position, could be an issue for the scrums. Just saying. That could be something that may have led to the downfall of the Wallaby scrum. And overall, the kicking game, the Scotland's kicking game was slightly better than the Wallabies. And both teams seem to be pretty good at diffusing pressure overall. James O'Connor had a bit of a shocking day at kicking. So right at the beginning of the game, there was a penalty right in front, bit of an angle. He missed that one, which kind of like ended up being the point difference for overall the game. There was a so and then in the last minute of the game, on the 77th minute, where Wallabies had one last chance to go attack at the Scottish line. There was a penalty, so Jock had to kick the ball out. James O'Connor had to kick the ball out into the for touch for the line out, right? He missed the touch. So yeah, so 2 big mistakes from James O'Connor kind of like cost Wallaby quite a lot. And then there was a lot of stupid niggling around for the Wallabies team. I don't know what is going on with the Wallabies. It's just like really unprofessional from the Wallaby players. So Tom Wright, there was one point where so there was one point where, actually, let's go from the start. At the beginning, where Wallabies could have scored, they were like 5 meters out from the Scottish line. Hunter Paisami goes into a clean out. He had Finn Russell cleaned out from the rucks. And instead of just like letting him go, he kept pushing him for like 5 meters past the ruck. He just kept pushing him, and there was a mass. And then, as this was happening, Wallabies had overlap out wide. So the ball goes out all the way out to Tom Wright. He was wide open, just a try line in front of him. Referee blows the whistle for the penalty for just basically taking out a player without a ball. Essentially, at that point, you're pushing him out of the ruck, like 5 meters behind the defensive line. That is just not acceptable. So that was pretty bad from Hunter Paisami. And then there was another point where Nick White, he did a box kick the ball to clear the ball out for the Wallabies. He did a box kick out, and then the guy that was charging him down. What's going on with the guy that was charging him down, right? Let me turn this light off. There we go. Just don't want to see it. Don't want to look like I'm in the movie Avatar. But anyway, the guy that was charging Nick White down, missed the charge, obviously, forced him onto his feet, and Nick White just turns around and shoves him into the ground, and then realizing what he had done, right? He quickly grabs him and tries to pull him up on his feet. And the referee's just like, yeah, no, that's enough, don't do that. Just really stupid stuff like that. And there was one other point where Wallabies kicked the ball out, so the Scottish fullback Hamish Watson, Stuart Hogg gets the ball, right? And he's trying to throw a quick line out, which is he's allowed. And Tom Wright just keeps going up, start pushing him, and started trying to slapping the ball off his hand. And the referee's like, what are you doing? You can't do that. Penalty. Just stupid stuff like that. Really cost Wallabies quite a bit, unnecessarily a bit as well. And yeah, so this was, overall, I think the Scotland really put ahead a little bit because of these just small stuff really added up, cost the Wallabies. Overall, the match stats, 2 tries to 1, 338 run meters for the Scotland, 256 for Wallabies. I think at half time, the Wallabies were ahead in run meters. Let me have a look. No, at halftime, Scotland was 163, 147 in run meters. Turnovers conceded, so both teams conceded a lot of turnovers. Wallabies did do a little bit better in that hand. So 16 turnovers conceded for the Scotland and 12 turnovers conceded for the Wallabies. Tackles made 103 for Scotland, 95 for the Wallabies, 21 missed tackles. That is highest tackle miss count I've seen for a while for the Wallabies now. So they were down to like 10. One, against the Springboks. So this is just not that great, to be honest. And obviously there was one line-out loss for Scotland and scrum. It says 2 lost scrums, but there was just penalties because it doesn't count as a scrum loss if the Scotland had the feed. So the Scottish scrum was absolutely dominating over the Wallabies. This stat does not reflect how overwhelmingly dominant this was. Penalties conceded 14. I reckon about 6 of these penalties were just scrum penalties against the Wallabies. It was really, really bad. 1 yellow card and 12 penalties conceded for Scotland. So overall, let's have a quick go through the game. And there was just, it was pretty frustrating to watch for me, because there were just so many little things that just really just didn't go well for the Wallabies and ended up costing us the game. If one of these little things had played out a little bit better, Wallabies could have won. So right from the start, 5 minutes into the game, Wallabies had a penalty not right in front, a tiny bit of angle, and James O'Connor kicks it, completely missed it. The ball just went whoosh, sailed off to the right. And there was a big from the crowd. So that was pretty bad. And then 2 minutes, on the 7th minute, first scrum of the game, straight away James Slipper got penalized for the referee says hinging, but it looked like he slipped. So it was, again, and that was just the beginning of the horrendous scrummaging that was to come for the remainder of the game. So on the 15th minute, there was a 5-meter line out for Scotland after a really good line break by Hogg. So then the line out comes in for a maul. There was a bit of a loose ball. So there was a bit of a loose ball for the Wallabies, and the Wallabies managed to punt the ball back down the field. And Stuart Hogg caught the ball, right? He gets tackled. It was pretty close to Scotland try line. He tried to run, and then he gets caught and gets dragged back into the goal area. And Stuart Hogg held the ball up, passes to one of his players, and the Scottish player kicks it out on clearance. And initially the referee says the ball was grounded in goal, but Stuart Hogg was like, no, I didn't ground the ball in goal. I passed it. So the referee, there was a TMO review for this, by the way. This was really weird. You don't normally TMO review this sort of stuff. So TMO review says, so Hogg, obviously, he made the mental note not to ground the ball. So he did not ground the ball intentionally. So the referee goes, okay, he didn't ground the ball. And then, 10 seconds later, there was another decision made by the TMO says, oh no, he did ground the ball. So there was a slight second where he was being tackled, the ball touched the ground for a brief second, and the referee said, oh no, you did ground the ball. So it was a 5-meter scrum for the Wallabies. So it was a 5-minute TMO review on that, believe it or not, whether or not Stuart Hogg grounded the ball inside his own goal or not. So that was a bit over the top. I thought the referee should have just carried on with his initial decision that he grounded the ball, 5-meter scrum, without going through this whole TMO stuff, and it was just quite ridiculous. And then, so the Wallabies, the Wallabies gets a scrum from that. So then the Wallabies had an attacking opportunity for 5-meter line out, and they looked pretty well, and then Hamish Watson managed to turn the ball over after just one phase for Wallabies. So that was a pretty poor execution following the scrum, bit of lack of support. So a few minutes later, Scotland were on the offense. On the 19th minute, they were putting Wallabies under a lot of pressure, and there was a penalty that was 45 meters out for offside. So on Michael Hooper actually get penalized. So instead of kicking for a goal, which I thought they could potentially kick this because it was 45 meters out, it's not that hard for a finger roll. So right down the middle, Scotland opted for a line out. They kicked the ball out for a 5-meter line out, which was kind of we shall see how the decision goes, right? So the line-out comes in. The Wallabies gets penalized again. Scotland sits for more, didn't really get anywhere. The Wallabies gets penalized again for offside. So then now you think maybe Scotland will take the kick. This is much closer now. You can basically, it's 20, 25 meters out, you can take the ball back, right? It's like a 5-meter line out, they got penalized. So no, Scotland had the guts to go for another line out, which I thought was a really good decision. And this line out had a bit of a controversy as well. So this was a brilliantly executed line out. Scotland, the ball went far. The Scottish jumper, the receiver caught the ball at the back of the ruck, or in the sixth position, and he passes the ball to the guy in the third position, and they set up a dummy maul at the back, and then another maul at front. So it was a dummy maul set up at the back, and the Wallabies just had no clue. Everybody was confused where the ball was, and then basically the dummy maul did the job. The real maul that was set up up front goes in for a try. So the TMO reviewed this. There could have been a little bit of obstruction because the player who got the ball caught the ball from the pass from the line out lift. As he's setting up for the maul, there was no Wallaby players on him. So if he had passed the ball back had fed the ball back to his own player before a Wallaby player touched him, that should have been an obstruction. So they reviewed the TMO tape. You can't really see at which point the ball was passed back to the receiving player. So Scottish the try stands, but yeah, I thought it looked like he made the gesture to pass the ball back, but you can't see whether or not after making the gesture he let go of the ball. So it was a try. So that was fair enough. So that was really beautifully executed. To be honest, I thought it was pretty nice. I had a bit of I got a bit excited off that try, to be honest. I thought I was really good executed. And then on the 26th minute, another penalty scrum against Australia, against James Slipper again for hinging. So it seems to be an issue with the scrummaging, a really bad scrummaging from there. And this was with when no one was penalized. This was the starting lineup. There was nothing too crazy from this. This is the starting lineup for the Wallabies, already struggling in the scrummaging. And then on the on the 30th minute, this is where the Wallabies finally gets an opportunity to put on a try, where they built a lot of pressure. Finally, sucked in a lot of. They were really close, about 5 meters, maybe 10 meters out from the Scottish try line, and they were just building pressure. And then there was a massive overlap out wide with Tom Wright on the wing with no one marking him. So the Wallabies quickly spreads ball out wide. Tom Wright gets the ball. Referee blows the whistle, and I thought that was not a forward pass. That's my initial thought. Why did you blow the whistle? That wasn't a forward pass. It was pretty obvious. And the referee said Hunter Paisami was in the ruck cleaning out one of the Scottish players, which was Finn Russell, and he literally pushed him back 5 meters past behind the ruck, and then tackled him onto the ground. Just not necessary. And then that was penalized, so Wallabies did not score. And so that was pretty bad. Nick White had a bit of a shocker around this point. I saw his passing starts to go to the ground, so I wasn't sure what's happening. So, and anyway, on the 36th minute, the Wallabies are finally back again, putting pressure on Scotland, and it's looked like so there was a quick faces following. Yeah, I think there was a line out, but anyway, there was a few faces, a crash ball. Hooper gets to the breakdown, looks up, he was about 5 meters out, picks up the ball and goes for the line out. He gets tackled just short, he reaches out for a try. They want a TMO review, whether he was a double movement or not. Looked like one movement to me. You're allowed to reach out for a try. So the TMO review, and the TMO goes, hang on, there's a foul play here. So Zander Fagerson, what was him? Alatoa, I think it was cleaning out Zander Fagerson, went to clean out on the ruck, just where the ruck where Hooper picked up the ball from, had a limp swinging arm, literally was and tapped one of the Scottish players on the face, on the ground, penalty and yellow card. And Hooper was like, dude, referee, it's your decision. You don't have to do that. That's the wrong decision. It's not a yellow card offense. It's literally no level of danger. And the referee, Romain Poit, Romain, I think it's pronounced Romain Poita, it's French. So he's the infamous referee that gave that gave the British and Irish Lions the draw in 2017, in case you didn't know. And this is his last game. He's retiring from this. So it says, yeah, Hooper, we can talk about my referee after the game. This is the TMO's decision. And Hooper's like, you can change the decision if you don't agree. And Romain's like, nah, it's okay. That's the decision the TMO has made. We shall stick to it. So he gives a yellow card to Alan Alatoa for basically a tiny little, yeah, it was pretty weird. And whilst this was happening, they showed a footage where Hooper gets out of the try. Zander Fagerson, the fat piece of turd, grabs Hooper on the face like this, okay? Like this, right? And he shooks him, pushes him away. Like, how was that allowed? You grabbed him by the face. Looked like he could have had his finger in Hooper's eye. Like, how was that allowed? And that was not a penalty, apparently. No yellow card for Zander Fagerson. TMO didn't see that because he's an absolute buffoon, this TMO. So, yeah, Zander Fagerson, you fat piece of turd. Absolute, like, disgusting. I couldn't, like, yeah, I don't know what to say. Like, just disgusting move to do stuff like that. Anyway, so then, so Tupou comes on for Alan Alatoa because he's a tight head prop. And the scrum seems to have steadied a little bit with Tupou was on the field for a bit. And then on the 38th minute, Scotland get penalised for the breakdown, 40 metres out. Pretty much the identical position where O'Connor missed the first kick. O'Connor gets this kick this time, pops straight down the middle. 7 points to 3. And then, yeah, so then halftime score, 7 points to 3 to Scotland with just one conversion for the Wallabies. So coming out of the second half, came out of the second half right away, 3 minutes in the second half, there was a huge, Wallabies were like inside the Scottish half, but Scotland was running the ball out. And like I mentioned to you just before, the Scottish number 12 crashes into Tupou with a massive thud that rang around made a massive sound that was just like ringing around the entire field. Tupou goes down, taken off the field for HIA. So now we have a prop in a yellow card. We have a prop in HIA. So Angus Bell goes on, and yeah, now we have 2 loose props, and things got really bad, right? So luckily the Wallabies were in control of the game at the moment, so it hasn't really shown too bad of an issue. So Wallabies had a scrum. James Slipper goes to tight head. First scrum, he didn't look too bad. He managed to hold on. The ball comes out of this first scrum when Wallabies had just outside of Scottish 22. The ball comes down, a beautiful set piece play. The ball goes to Isaiah Peresi, who just came onto the field. He crashed the ball into the 12 channel, just hard running, takes the ball over the advantage line by like 10, 15 meters, and really puts the Scottish defense on the back foot. Quick ball comes out, back on the inside ball to Rob Leota that just came out from the scrum. Rob Leota crashes through, goes in for Wallabies' first try. James O'Connor converts this, 7 points to 10. And then 2 minutes later, Scotland on the 47th minute, Scotland's on the front foot again. There was a massive break by the Scotland number 12, and they looked like they were gonna score from this massive break they made from their inside center. And then the Scotland got tackled 5 meters short. So that was really, really close on the 47th minute. On the 50th minute, the Tom Wright incident happened where Wallabies kicks the ball out to the sideline. There was like a 50-meter line out. Tom Wright goes there, tries to disrupt Stuart Hogg from doing a quick throw. And then he tries to slap the ball with his hand. Referee penalized him for just, unsportsmanlike conduct. This was really, really bad. So Scotland kicks the ball out for a 22-meter line out, and it was stopped by Hunter Paisami with a huge hit, so diffused that. So anyway, on the 53rd minute, Scotland, Finn Russell gets the first 50-22 for this game. The ball kind of this was like a huge kick from Finn Russell. It looked like Tom Wright was there to cover the ball, but the ball was bounced, right? It bounced in a really weird angle. It literally bounced and took a 90-degree turn sideways, went straight out. And basically Tom Wright just went suddenly caught off guard with the ball ricocheting to an angle, not able to stop the ball from going outbound. So Scotland gets a huge 50-22, And this was, yeah, so basically, Scotland, from this point going off onwards, this is where everything starts to go really, really bad for the Wallabies. So the Scotland has a line out, comes in, straight away Wallabies were penalised for offside. So a free opportunity for Scotland. Tom Wright managed to stop the attack with an intercept. So they go back for the penalty. Instead of taking the penalty, whilst this was happening, Alan Alatoa gets knocked in the head. And he gets taken off the field for HIA. So now we have two loose head back on the field. So it's James Slipper on tight head and Angus Bell on the loose head. And seeing this, Scotland decides to go for a scrum. Instead of going for a line out again, they go for a scrum. And then, so sure enough, scrum gets absolutely destroyed. Penalty. Scotland tries to, Scotland basically gets the full advantage. And then they started playing the ball. There was one point where they almost scored with Van der Merwe against Nick White. Surely looked like Nick White was going to get run over, but he caught Van der Merwe on the foot, tackled him, not able to get him to score. And then so they go back for another scrum. So second scrum was even worse than the first one. Basically, again, the scrum absolutely get folded in half. It looked like Slipper might have hurt himself. He was just like literally folded like a piece of paper. And then the scrum goes back out again. A lot of pressure from Scotland. Eventually, Scotland found the hooker out wide on the wing, goes into the corner for a try for Scotland. Scotland gets up ahead, 12 points to 10. Finn Russell failed to convert this one, so only 2 points ahead for Scotland on the 57th minute. On the 63rd minute, the Wallabies were attacked just inside the Scottish half. Watson gets penalised on the ground for playing the ball on the ground. He wasn't not supporting his body weight. So right in front, James O'Connor slots this one. 12 points to 13 Wallabies. Gets back onto the field. On the 66th minute, Curly Bew is back for the first time since 2019. It's pretty good to see him back onto the field. And then Alan Alatoa is back on the field after passing his HIA. So the scrum seems to, so scrum seems to be steadied up a little bit. But you're hoping that the scrum was going to be steadied up, but they went for but the first scrum when Alan Alatoa comes back, Australia gets penalised again for collapsing the scrum. Again, the referee says the hinging. And this was a kickable range. So Scotland takes the penalty, 3 points. This was about 38 meters out on an angle, but no problems for Finn Russell. 15 points to 13. Scotland gets ahead with 15 minutes or so to play, right? And then for the last 15 minutes, overall, the Scotland still dominating the Wallabies in the scrummaging, even though they put on the reserve front row was not that experienced, still able to dominate Alan Alatoa and Angus Bell. So it's definitely something wrong with the Wallabies setup. I don't believe that Angus Bell and Alan Alatoa had ever performed this poorly in the scrum before. And then eventually the Wallabies on the 77th minute had a final opportunity to get an attack into the Scottish half. There was a penalty against Scotland inside the Wallabies half after Scotland applying some pressure on the Wallabies. So James O'Connor gets the ball and fails to find touch. And then that was pretty much it. On the 79th minute, the Wallabies, a desperate attempt, try to turn the ball over. Robert Valentini gets penalised on the breakdown. And that was pretty much it. Scotland beats the Wallabies again. And let me know what you think. Probably none of you guys probably watched this game because, hashtag Wallabies only for rich people. And I don't know what else to say. I think the changes in the second rower definitely had something to do with the scrummaging, despite the really unlucky injuries that did occur to the Wallabies. So, let me know what you think if you are even going to watch this game. So, thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys a bit later this week for the news. Cheers.